Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, sometimes, your actions trigger an unexpected response from other people, and unexpected in a negative way. And instead of analyzing the situation again, you try to find justifications that might fit your narrative still. Instead of, you say, well, I'm going to do this, I expect that. And something else shows up instead of what you expected. The consequences are different. And instead of saying, well, maybe my ingredients were wrong, I will say, no, those guys, something is wrong over there. Not with my thing. And that's a mistake. You should look at both, but not look only at those guys. That's the problem. What am I talking about? Oops. My breasts are coming out. The Baltic states and the Germans decided that it would be a good thing to use visual propaganda, which works the best, and display some burned, destroyed Russian tanks from Ukraine. So they took them out and placed them in various cities in the Baltic states: Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, I think in Poland as well, and in Berlin, in Germany. And they expected the reaction to be, I don't know, people taking their pants down and taking a poop over there, or maybe the 5 minutes of hate from George Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel. Maybe they expected everybody to 5 minutes to show their indignation and call Putin a mass murderer and so on. But they didn't see only that, they saw something that they did not expect and anticipate to see. People placing flowers at and around these tanks. And that did not sit well with these guys. And instead of saying, what's going on over here? Guess what they said? Those people must be something wrong with them. They must be evil like the other ones. They couldn't help analyzing maybe something on my narrative doesn't really work. But even if they know, they had to do this. So I don't think some of them were so dumb and so ideologically narrow that, or shallow, that they couldn't see and couldn't understand it. And they must have said these guys are either paid by the Kremlin, or these guys are just evil themselves, or things like this. And some of them said, yeah, it's expected. You're going to have this, but we're going to shame them. We know, but we got to shame them. We have to. And that's exactly what happened. So I have here one article from Associated Press, and let me start by reading part of it. So it is from yesterday, from the 1st of March 2023. Russians place flowers at burnt-out tanks in Baltic cities. So, burnt-out Russian tanks seized by Ukrainian forces last year have gone on display in recent days in the capitals of 3 Baltic states, where Estonians, Latvians, and Lithuanians are turning out to view them and snap photos in sympathy with the Ukrainians defending their homeland. This is the narrative, all right? But oops, right here, these guys are spoiling the party, or soiling it, or burning it. But among those visiting the tanks are also members of the country's sizable ethnic Russian minorities, some of whom placed flowers and lit candles to commemorate the fallen Russian soldiers and express support for Moscow. Well, these guys first are generalizing because they think that only the Russian minorities could possibly have done that. Because you had to be, some kind of Putin idiot to do that. You can be, let's say, a Hungarian idiot or a French idiot. That's no. Now, let me see. Let me tell you something here about history. In our entire history, we had people, and even right now, that are still superstitious. Superstitious, yeah. And that is, believe something happens if you do this and if you do that, and there's someone always looking at you and defending you or hurting you or something like this, and if you don't put this like this, it's going to happen like this, and all that. And there are certain totems that if you carry them, you're going to be lucky, they're for good luck. Some of them are for bad luck, so you don't carry them. In the medieval times and before that, when a brave man from the opposite army was killed in the battle, the people who killed that person, they started cutting places, things from that person, like a finger or a thumb or the nose, the ear, something. They would rip clothes and they will take them with them, hoping that would give them more power. That's how it was with this kind of people. But since then, we, the human race, we evolved. We're not like that. We're not like that whatsoever. There's no more nothing like that. So this kind of totems and the display of sometimes the enemy's body in the market square, again, it was very well documented in those times when we were so uncivilized. Remember? I'm going to give you an example. You're familiar with Dracula. I'm pretty sure you heard this name. Now, these guys made a connection between Dracula and Vlad the Impaler, right? Let me show you. Well, do you think only they can use visuals here? I can use it. So this guy, remember this guy? Vlad the Impaler? All right, my favorite guy, all right? So when this guy was one of the stories, he was killed, okay? In the end, he ended like that, killed, and his head, by legend, was cut off and taken to the Sultan in Istanbul, Constantinople, and put over there on a stake, right? That's like a trophy. Everybody was, yeah, we killed the fucker. Okay, why? Because he was too good with the Turks. So this kind of display of your enemy's body in the middle of the square used to be very awful. Imagine right now that these guys would take some Russian soldiers or mercenaries that were killed in Ukraine, put them on a stake right in Vilnius, all right, let's say in Krakow or whatever, in Berlin. I mean, that's the next step. But I'm not talking about the human flesh versus a tank. The symbolism is the same. And it did not create the expected reaction. People placed flowers over there, maybe not only for the Russians, maybe for humanity in general, maybe some higher ideal feelings and thoughts that these guys were incapable of entertaining. Some people are like that. Remember, if you're a Christian, and you're supposed to be, right? Love your enemy. Yeah, let's see what happened with some people who placed flowers over there. What do you think happened with those? And they are Christians over there in Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. Anyway, let's go and read further. The Russian gestures of support for Russians. I don't know if it was only Russians. You just generalized to make the group smaller because you didn't expect this to happen. So now you are running cover for the new narrative, same narrative, but to make it fit. It was just a few crazy Russians. So the Russian gestures of support for Russia's side in the war have set off some arguments and at least one first fight in Vilnius, underlying the tensions that are simmering in the Baltic nations. So I guess freedom of expression is not very accepted among now civilized people in the 21st century, while looking at the enemy's trophy destroyed or body. On Wednesday, supporters and opponents of the war argued in front of a burned-out Russian T-72 tank struck by Ukrainian forces near Kiev on March 31st. It stands on Freedom Square in the center of Estonian capital, a space adorned with Ukrainian and Estonian flags and where the Ukrainian anthems could be heard from nearby St. John's Church. Ooh, that's idyllic, beautiful. The church with a tank. These guys are just, you can't make shit up. They display that over there and people are expected that to... Anyway, the Estonian Defense Ministry on Saturday called the tank a symbol of Russia's brutal invasion. Well, that's one way to look at things, but it's not the only one. It also shows that the aggressor can be defeated. Let's help Ukraine defend freedom. I wouldn't go that far. I don't see what's going on in Ukraine as defending freedom. Can I say that? I mean, I can see defending their country, not freedom per se. I mean, their freedom is not my freedom, even though they try to say that. All right, last week, Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov, Ukrainian. He's Ukrainian as I'm Chinese. Anyway, Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov announced that the tanks were going on display in the three Baltic capitals and to Berlin as museum exhibits, following similar displays in Poland and the Czech Republic last year. It is a powerful reminder to all of us how well and peacefully we live when people die in Ukraine. Great. That's why we have to help Ukraine so we can continue living like this, because they defend freedom right here. Okay, good. Now, it says Russian government officials, including President Vladimir Putin, have promoted a false narrative that Moscow's military is fighting against neo-Nazis, even though Ukraine has a Jewish president who lost relatives in the Holocaust and who has backed Baba. Okay, let's see. Oh, let me read this. It was very intelligent. He promoted the false narrative that Moscow's military is fighting against the neo-Nazis, even though Ukraine has a Jewish president who lost relatives in the Holocaust and who heads a Western-backed democratic elected government. Okay, so that means if he is Jewish, there cannot be neo-Nazis. That's the logic. Okay, well, that means that if President Obama, a black man, was the president of the United States of America, there's no racism on black people, right? Using the same logic. Oh no, it doesn't work that way. It's preferential. Okay, my bad. All right, now, regarding Western-backed democratic elected government, he heads a Western-backed democratic elected government. It's true, Western-backed. But the same Western-backed helped and supported the overthrow of a democratically elected government of Yanukovych in 2014. So how is that Western looking? Preferential democracy and backer? Yep. They didn't like Yanukovych, even though he was democratically elected. Government, the same as Zelensky. But Yanukovych was elected by the whole Ukraine. Zelensky wasn't. Zelensky was not voted by the people in Donbass, for instance, or Crimea. And if those are Ukrainians, then you are not. So again, Yanukovych had more democracy badge on his chest, bigger one, than Zelensky has. So these things are just, and this argument, when I hear this argument with there can't be neo-Nazis because he's Jewish, again, no more, as I said, discrimination in the United States, racial discrimination or anything, no racism because Obama was president. But anyway. As some Russians placed flowers, again, Russians. How do you know they were Russians? All of them placed flowers on the tank in Vilnius, the Lithuanian capital. The city authorities put a garbage container in the vicinity with a sign saying it's for flowers, candle, and Soviet nostalgia. Well, that's hatred, isn't it? Hatred, and it is by the city's authorities. So this is the people who love freedom of speech? Wow, that was right. Okay, well, if those guys were bad, the ones that place flowers, this thing, what does it say? The whole thing here. That you're better than those? Anyway, one person placed a toilet bowl near the tank as a reminder of looting by Russian forces. Okay, one person was a Lithuanian or Estonian? Lithuanian police launched several investigations related to incident, including one in which a man was beaten for removing flowers. That person does not like freedom of expression. And remember, it's only the Russians, the bad guys, beating the guy who removed flowers. Another incident was reported Tuesday when a man sprayed it with red color. Okay, well, I guess. That's the 5 minutes of hatred from George Orwell's 1984 novel. Not all Russians are taking Moscow's side. Not all Europeans take Ukrainian side, and not all Ukrainians take Ukraine's side. Can I say that? Or that's not? Because when you say that, there are people that I know that, might have a different point of view. Now, again, in Berlin, the tank also became a site of homage. Pro-Russian sympathizers placed, see how they call them? Maybe people with different kind of view. can I have a different view on that without being called something? Placed red roses on a destroyed tank that was displayed in front of the Russian embassy. The roses were eventually removed. Yeah, because it didn't fit the narrative. The Russian embassy denied that it had organized the placement of the flowers, but said that it welcomed the heartfelt gesture by German citizens and our compatriots in Germany, end quote. And we have here a guy called Nerisius Malciupapi-Kuviuchuka, an analyst at Institute of International Relations and Political Science in Vilnius. He must be very educated and an expert. He's an analyst. Said he believes, well, if you believe, you already lost the credibility with me. You have to reason, you have to think, not believe. The placement of pro-Russian tributes at the tanks are part of an organized Kremlin tactic. Do you have any evidence? No. Then shut up. Indeed, you believe. Then, and he's an analyst. He's an analyst. So that's a part of an organized Kremlin tactic, noting that the image of them have ended up on social media and state televisions. So it's a tactic. Do you have the evidence? No. So that is just, you just think. No, you just believe that. You're an analyst. You have to base it on evidence. You have any evidence? No. This, and I'm quoting, this is how an alternative reality of a Europe that supports Putin is created. Could that be true for the other side too? And if not, why not? The analyst told the Associated Press. You see, these guys are just, they pretend to be the civilized, freedom-loving, democracy-loving, free speech-loving, Western European values and all that. But just look at that. And this is a short article that was supposed to actually smear the Russians and all that, and how many imbecilities you can find in it, including the analyst who just believes that's the way it is. As I would say right now, I think Zelensky thinks of strangling Putin. Why? Because that's what leaders do. Okay, Emil, yeah, okay, but you gotta bring something. No, I'm an analyst. I read 3 books and I have a diploma, so you gotta believe me. Okay. Well, for me, as always, in order for me to know who you are, how much you know, and most importantly, how you think, I engage in a conversation. And I will figure out maybe in about 2 minutes, if we have a conversation about the subject, how you think. And that's the most important thing, not what you know. Because a lot of people can have the basic memory, but when it's about getting the information to come with an idea or support a statement, they don't have that minimum ability to reason. Right? So you can have the basic, you have a lot of knowledge, you read a lot, you memorize it, but when I ask you what should we do in this circle, it's raining, what do we do? I don't know. Well, if it's raining, maybe we get wet, maybe we should take some clothes or something or hat that doesn't allow the rain to penetrate. That means should be something that repels rain. All right, so what do we have in a house? And you look, so that's how you think. This guy's gonna say, I don't know, it's raining. Raining means drops. Yeah, and then it's gonna tell you what rain is. I don't care. What am I gonna do about it? I'm just giving a dumb example just so you know, to make a point. So the same with this analyst. And he's featured in this article as being, and he had a last word, as a, how should I put it, as a intellectual, as a person that we're like, oh, Nerisius, okay, Nerisius, yeah. I don't need more about this guy. And this is an analyst from an institute of whatever. I don't need more. I know who this guy is already. By saying that, he wouldn't have said that. I mean, maybe he's intelligent, but that means he's a weasel just saying things to be said so he gets recognition, popularity contest. Oh, he must be living in a democratic country where popularity is, charisma is the most important thing. How do you form charisma? Being popular. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.